besties, my name is Maddie and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be going over my fall TBR. I have so many that I want to get to. Will I get through them? Not quite sure. And all these books are just based on vibes, okay? They might not even be set in fall, they just give me the fall vibes. I have a few for romance, thriller, and horror I think I found. So let's jump right into this video. I think I have 15 books on this list. So hopefully you find a book or two that you want to read. So the first on this list isn't really set in fall, I don't believe, but the cover is giving me fall. So it's Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. So this is part of her Rose Hill series, which I believe all follow single dads. So this follows Skylar and Wes, and I believe Skylar is like I believe she's a big music star, something along those lines, so she's coming to this small town to kind of get away for a little bit and work on her music at a little record studio that they got there. And there she meets our MMC Weston, and they kind of start a little budding friendship relationship. And it's basically their story, a little cute little romance. I always have such a good time with Elsie Silver's writing, so I believe this one will be no different. And I believe it just came out a few weeks ago. I loved the first one in this series, so obviously I have to keep on going with it. And I have Haunted Ever After by Jen DeLuca. So this follows Cassie and Nick. And I think Nick owns a coffee shop in this small town, and Cassie has recently bought like an older home and she believes that it's haunted. So Nick and Cassie are going to work together and do like little ghost tours and like try to figure out who owned the house prior so they can see like who's haunting it, I guess. I think it's Grumpy Sunshine. We have small town. It's kind of rom-com vibes, and there's like little ghosts obviously. And I think it gives like the right amount of like cozy and spooky. So I'm really looking forward to reading that one. Then I have Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Lori Gilmore. This follows Jeannie and Logan, and Jeannie's aunt left her cafe in this small town, and she's like, oh, obviously I will jump right on that. I don't want my desk job anymore. And Logan is the local farmer. She thinks she's gonna charm him like she charms everyone else, and he is like, I'm not falling for this city girl. And you have Grumpy Sunshine, small town, the found family. So I think it gives all the wholesome fall vibes. Then I have You Again by Kate Goldbeck. So this follows Ari and Josh, and they meet, and the first time they meet, can't stand each other, absolutely hate each other. And they're like, this isn't gonna work. So they part ways and plan on never seeing each other again until their paths cross again, because they are sleeping with the same person, I believe. So I'm not sure what's going on there. I don't know if they're both dating the same person. I don't know if it's just hookups. Not quite sure. They decide that maybe they could have a little bit of a friendship out of this. So I believe it's enemies to friends to lovers. And it gives those rom-com fall vibes. I mean, even the cover just screams fall to me. So obviously I had to put it on this list. And then lastly for my romances, I have Morbidly Yours by Ivy Fairbanks, I believe. And this follows Callum and Lark. Callum owns a funeral home, I believe. I think he's like a mortician, something along that. He's dealing with dead people, and in order to have his business, he has to be married by his 35th birthday. And Lark is staying in like an Airbnb, I believe, next to this funeral home. They kind of have a little budding friendship, and she's like, I will help you find a wife by your 35th birthday. And she's just staying at this Airbnb for a limited time. He only has a limited time to find a wife, and as time keeps going on, they kind of figure out that maybe they're falling for each other instead of like these dates she's planning for him. And I believe it's going to be their kind of relationship, their little story. And I think it sounds so cute. I think it sounds so fun. It definitely gives those fall vibes. I mean, he is dealing with dead people. What else could you need for a spooky little fall, you know? I am really looking forward to that one as well. There are so many good romances that it was so hard to just pinpoint just a few, but I didn't want to get too overwhelmed with all these book recommendations. So thriller and horror books always give me fall vibes, but I try to pinpoint the ones that felt most fall in my brain, okay? So bear with me, because some of these I was like looking back, I'm like, oh, is that really fall? But to me, it's giving fall, okay? So the first on this list is Wrong Place, Wrong Time by Jillian McAllister. So this follows Jen and her 18-year-old son Todd, and one night she is staying up late. I think it's like the eve of Halloween, and she's staying up waiting for her son to get home, and as he's coming home, she watches him just stab someone, kills him, and she's like, excuse me? So he obviously gets arrested, because you just can't like go around killing people for no reason, and this is like completely random, I guess. And so she goes home, falls asleep, and then the next day she wakes up and it's the day before, and this murder has not taken place yet. So it's now her job to figure out why her son did this, why he killed this man, and how she can stop it. And it seems very like, I think it's like time travel-y, you know, something like that. But it also sounds very interesting, because you have the crime that's committed, and then her trying to figure out why he committed this crime and who he committed the crime against. Very interesting. And the cover gives fall-ish vibes. You know, it happens on Halloween. fall time. This one was a little bit harder to pinpoint, but I feel like it's because it's set at the beginning of high school. So like when you start school, it's like fall time, if that makes any sense. In my brain, it does. So I have The Perfect Son by Frida McFadden. And this follows Erica, which is the mom, and she seems to have like the perfect life, the perfect family, until the cops show up to question her son about this teenage girl because he is the last one to see her alive. And then once the evidence starts to like pinpoint that it makes it seem like it's him who killed this girl, she's wondering how far she will go for her family and for her son. And seems a little sketch. Seems a little yucky if you ask me, but sounds like the perfect little cozy thriller. I mean, I don't know if I should use cozy as this word. Doesn't seem fitting, but that's the only word I can think of right now. And I believe this is also kind of psychological, which all of Frida McFadden books that I've read have always messed with my brain immensely and have left me feeling pretty empty. So we'll see if this one does it too. Then I have 20 Years Later by Charlie Donley. Don't know if I'm saying their name correctly. So this one was really hard for me to like grasp the concept of this. So I believe this newscaster wants a new story. So she's talking about this gruesome murder that took place 20 years prior where there was like sex and drugs and a bunch of other crazy things that were involved in this murder. And I believe that now like some crime scene investigators are like pulling up DNA from like 9/11 victims who happens to be this woman who killed her husband for this murder. Okay, I don't know if that makes sense because I read this synopsis 35 times. I even tried to like write it down. I couldn't get it in my brain. I don't know if it's supposed to mess with you that way. She's trying to write this story about this. Apparently she killed her husband, supposedly, but on the morning of 9/11, she called her sister and was like, you have to prove that I'm innocent. I didn't do this. I didn't kill my husband. So her sister is trying to prove that she's innocent this entire time. So like the last little sentence, I have to look this up to like make it make sense in my brain. So the last little sentence is, accused of a brutal murder, Victoria made a final chilling call from the North Tower on the morning of 9/11. 20 years ago, no one listened. Today you will. What does that mean? What? I'm very intrigued by that little today you will. I hope that made sense because that was a rough one for me to like try to follow. I just think maybe thriller books are not the best to be explained unless you've read them because like again in this one I have In My Dreams I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. So 10 years prior there was this group of 7 friends who were like the best of friends. They did everything together and then one night one of them is brutally murdered and I believe her boyfriend is kind of accused of killing her but there was no concrete evidence so it didn't pass. 10 years later now they're going back for a reunion, these 6 friends are, and one of them is going to figure out who actually committed this murder and it's one of the 6 of them. That's all I got from the synopsis. I hope that made sense. And it just sounded so interesting because I love when everyone starts like pinning it on each other and when you get multiple characters in there, I feel like it can get real twisty and I love when that happens. So I cannot wait to read this one. And then lastly I have That's Not My Name by Megan Laley. So this one also a little confusing. So we have a young girl, teenage girl who wakes up on the side of the road, bruised, does not know who she is, doesn't know her name, nothing like that. And in comes this man who is saying she is her father. He has like her birth certificate, has like family photos. They're like, this is you and your name is Mary. And she's like, okay, I guess you want to just send me with this man? I don't know this man. And then on the other side of the story, I believe, a couple, Drew and Lola, are having a fight and she dips. She's like, I'm not having this conversation with you again. I'm leaving. And she storms off. Next morning, everyone thinks Drew killed her and he has to prove that he's innocent. So I don't know if they're the same girl. I don't know if they're different. I don't know what's going on. All I know is it's called That's Not My Name. And it makes me think that maybe Mary is not her name. Maybe that's what they want me to think. No idea, but sounds so interesting. Okay, and finally for my horror books. So these ones get me so spooked. Just reading about them, I was shaking in my boots, I'm not gonna lie. So the first one I have is Imaginary Friend by Stefan Chbosky? I have no idea how to say his last name. This follows Kate and her son Christopher, and she leaves her abusive relationship in the middle of the night, takes Christopher with her, and they find this like very close-knit town, very small town. There's like one road in, one road out. And she's like, this will be perfect for us to start over. Lo and behold, Christopher goes missing for 6 whole days. He's a child, I believe. I believe he's a small child. Missing for 6 days. Then he just magically shows back up 6 days later. He's like, oh, I'm fine, unharmed, nothing's wrong with him, except now he has an imaginary friend that only he can hear. What do you mean? And this little imaginary friend says that he needs to build a tree house by a certain date or something will happen to like his mom and the people in town. Not a clue. Creepy kids will get me every time though. I absolutely love them. I love them in movies. I love them in books. They're just so scary. Like if I'm ever a mother one day and my child comes to me and is like, Mom, you gotta check underneath my bed. There's something in there. Not me. We are packing up, we going to grandma's. I'm not looking. I'm not looking in no closet, underneath no bed. Absolutely not. I'm not doing it. So especially when a little creepy kid comes in and is like, oh, I got imaginary friend. No, you don't. But I love them. They just get me all sorts of nervous. They hurt my tummy, but I have such a good time when I'm reading them. And I have Just Like Home by Sarah Gailey. This follows our main character, Vera, and Vera's mother calls her and she's like, you need to come home right now. Because I believe her mom is sick. And she has not been home in quite some time because the home that her mother lives in is where her father also lived, obviously. And he was a serial killer and buried the bodies in the backyard. And she's like, oh, I guess I'll come home. And they also have some person living in their guest house at the same time. Vera starts finding like these little notes written in her dad's handwriting around the house. She's not really sure what's going on, and it sounds absolutely dreadful, and it sounds so good. I cannot wait to get my hands on this one. I have it actually, like a physical copy of it, so I cannot wait to read it. Then I have Ask for Andrea by Noelle something. I can't remember what her last name is. And it follows 3 girls, and I believe it's Risha, Megan, and Sky, and they were all killed by the same person. So this man poses as like an eligible bachelor, and he basically just lures girls in and kills them. So they are now in the afterlife, I guess, and they are going to try to seek revenge and make sure he doesn't kill anyone else. And it's them kind of coming to terms with that their life is over, and it just sounds real spooky. It's got the ghost vibes. I believe this one's on Kindle, so that's another big plus why I want to read it. Okay, these last 2 on my list, shaken in my boots I was reading just the synopsis, and I was so spooked out by these. I will definitely only be reading them with the lights fully on, and I will not be home alone. I have Incidents Around the House by Josh Mallerman. So this follows 8-year-old Bella, and she lives in this nice little home with her mommy, her daddy, and her other mommy, who lives in the closet and asks if she can have her heart every single day. So she always tells other mommy, no ma'am, you cannot have my heart, and stuff starts to go a bump in the night, you know. Stuff starts happening around the house because other mommy is getting very upset that she cannot possess this child, I'm assuming. And, you know, nothing is scarier than children. You know? So it's just her and this other mommy trying to battle it out, I guess you could say. And it sounds absolutely terrifying because it's told from Bella's point of view, I'm almost positive. And everything I was reading about it said this monster in here sounds absolutely terrifying, looks so creepy. So, you know, like when you're watching a scary movie, you can cover your eyes and you don't have to see what the thing looks like. This you gotta, you know, you gotta be able to read it, unless you just like, I guess, cover, but oh, so spooky. So again, with creepy children, they scare me. But I love reading about them. And then lastly on this list, I have Briar Dark by S.A. Heron. And this follows Holden, and he works just like a normal IT job, and he's just going through files, and he comes across Dr. Sienna's like audio files and like this encrypted hard drive, and it's her journey throughout this little expedition she's on. So Dr. Sienna and her team are in desolate Dead Switch wilderness. I believe it's like a forest, something like that. And they're looking for a glacier or something like that, and they come across a hiker dangling from a tree, and they're like, oh, we better call someone about this. Phones ain't working. Of course they're not. And then their maps start not making sense. They're not like lining up with the trails that they're on. There's like weird foliage going on. And then of course, there's a cabin. There's a creepy little cabin that has a sinister message in it, and Dr. Sienna's like, oh, I'm gonna go figure out what that message is. And it's that story. And it's giving Blair Witch Project. That movie still terrifies me to this day. Ooh, so spooky. Also, the lore behind that, crazy. So I think it sounds very interesting. It's giving me dread. Love that in a book. I am hoping to read at least some of these on my fall TBR list. Everything sounds just so good during fall, and fall is just the perfect time to be reading, you know? So I am hoping I get through at least some of these, but please let me know all of your fall recommendations. The TBR list keeps going, and I'm totally okay with that. So thank you so much for watching today's video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next one. Love yous!